when I was deciding my team, my main international team between the U.S. and Mexico, I couldn't pick the U.S. In fact, I didn't really need to think about it because I just asked myself, okay, if the United States won the World Cup, and let's be honest, Jose, we would talk about it for about 3 days, maybe 2 days in this country. Argentina, it's been 3 months. It's almost been 4 months since they won the World Cup. They are still talking about it every single day.
All right, and we are back again, episode 38 of the Box to Box podcast. If you don't know who I am, my name is Jose Tejas. I am the primary host of the show. And as you can see, I have a very special guest, as we normally do on the show. I'll tee him up with an intro here in just a sec. But before we do, guys, if you haven't already done so, subscribe to the channel down below, like the video. The support does help more than you know. And as always, Box to Box is presented by GOLZtv. GOLZtv, where you can get your free, unlimited, fan-made footy content today. We'll talk a little bit more about the mobile app that's launching soon. All right, now onto the intro for our guest. You guys have seen him on the show before. We were in much more of a, I would say, a bantery mood because the World Cup was going on. We were in the middle of multiple matches every single day. Life was good. Life was very good. But he is back, one of our few return guests on the show. He is back to really tell his story, and I'm super excited that he's here. We have Jack from Deadball TV, the Mr. Opinionated himself. Jack, how are you doing, man?
Doing well, man. Thanks for having me on again.
Yeah, absolutely, bro. I'm really excited to tell your story, and we're going to kind of do this as a little bit of a teaser, guys. We're going to kind of do this for all three members of Deadball. I think each of them has their own respective journey into this game. We're going to start with Jack. I believe he kind of is somewhat of the primary host over there. And in all honesty, man, you live in a hell of a soccer or football market, geographically speaking. You have, I think, kind of a crazy story when it comes to how you were brought into this game. So we're going to talk about it, and really, don't pull any punches, don't hold anything back. I definitely want your opinions on, and you never do, right? You never really do, but just kind of throwing that out there. And I definitely want your opinions on where you see the growth of the beautiful game going on this side of the world. We'll talk about it. We'll definitely jump into all of that. But before we do, the question that I always ask, I believe I asked you guys on the last episode, but you're here by yourself, so maybe there's a different response now. And, it's been months since we last kind of spoke on the show. So, Jack, who are you today, man?
Yeah, and I think last time you asked me that question, I had gone out partying the night before until 4 a.m. and literally woke up 5 minutes before we shot the episode. I felt so bad about that, so I apologize if that video was not up to par.
All good.
Who am I today, or who is Deadball TV today?
No, Jack. Who is Jack today?
Jack is a guy who is trying to create a community on YouTube that is interested in the international game as a whole. Like, I would say my objective with this is not to just create a show that people watch. What I want is for everybody to interact. Like, I'll use an example. I saw it recently. We have some viewers from Korea, and they were talking on our video that we released recently about Nigeria, like talking with African football fans. These are fans from Asia, not Asian Americans, fans like in Asia, talking with Nigerian football fans about the Nigerian national team. And it just like brings a smile to my face because like that's what I want to do. I want to highlight different footballing cultures around the world. I'm a Mexico fan through and through. You guys probably know that if you've seen Deadball TV.
Yep.
But I want to show love to everybody else and just really build a community. That's kind of like what I am trying to do right now. So I would say I'm a dude who's obsessed with that goal, sometimes to an unhealthy degree, probably spend too much time on the camera. And I play a lot of footy in my free time. That's kind of like my main stress relief in life when I'm not making videos for you guys on YouTube or I'm in the gym. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, bro. You are on a grind, man. I love it. And look, I think it's a grind that benefits everybody, right? When we think about trying to grow, and maybe stop me if I'm wrong here. I feel like when you say that you're trying to grow a true culture around this game, and that's, I think, in a part of the world where we don't have that, and maybe I'm bullish in saying that, we don't have that. I think it's necessary to have more people who want to not just put out content that people watch, grab their attention, but get them to interact, get them to live and breathe it the way that we do. I love that, bro. I think that's awesome. So,
yeah, man.
Look, I think your journey is super unique. So let's start from the beginning. You have a pretty interesting background. I think where I want to start with is you're very passionate about international football, where does that football passion come from? You told me right before the show that, your family didn't bring you into this game. You don't have this long-standing history of family members who have played and maybe played competitively or anything along those lines. So where does it come from? What's the oldest memory you have of football in general?
So the oldest memory I have is I played YMCA soccer when I was maybe 7 years old, and that is actually how me and Connor became friends. Connor's the other host of Deadball TV along with Jake. Jake I met in high school.
7 years old.
7 years old, yes. Wow. I believe my dad was either the coach or the assistant coach. I mean, it was full like Gio Reyna, Claudio Reyna. It was nepotism. I was the starting center back for sure. Connor's dad might have been the other assistant coach, so we were getting playing time back then. But that was like my introduction, and I never took it seriously at all. Like, it was fun. All my best friends were on the team. That's why I played. There wasn't really like a passion for soccer. My dad's a hockey player. He's from Cleveland. So you guys might also know, like, I'm a big Cleveland Browns fan, huge Cleveland Cavaliers fan. I live in Houston. I got a Dynamo jersey on my chest right now, but I'm Cleveland sports all day. All day, every day. I don't care if it's the Astros playing the Guardians now. Excuse me, I almost got you canceled. Or the Browns playing the Texans. I'm Cleveland every day, like every day. But I just played because my friends played, and there wasn't really like a culture of football in my household. I don't think I started watching until the 2010 World Cup, and I have a distinct memory of watching the final, Spain-Netherlands. It was my brother's best friend, a Mexican kid. We went over to his house for a watch party. Okay. And it was really weird being there because, like I said, my dad didn't care about it at all. So I was like, Dad, why are we here watching this soccer game? This is kind of weird. But that was my first experience, like, watching. And it kind of sparked my interest a little bit, I'll say.
So is that where the passion from international football really comes from? Like why? So is it strictly due to the World Cup, or were you just was it the countries playing versus clubs? Like why international football specifically?
I think there's two reasons. One is somewhat originating from being naive, and that's that my philosophy was that money didn't corrupt the international game as much as the club game. Like, when I saw international teams playing, I was like, these are guys representing their country. It's like the pinnacle of football for me is representing your national team. I don't care. Like, I don't even think club football compares. And I think I'm in a minority with that one. I think the greatest honor somebody can have is being an Olympic athlete or somebody playing for the U.S. men's national team. Like, for me, that's the pinnacle. And I think there's a purity in that. As I've grown older, as I've learned more about how federations work and how they make money, of course, that vision has been clouded a little bit by how much money does still play a part in international football. But I still think it's number one. And I still get excited every single international break when everybody else is getting upset because the Premier League title race has to be on pause, or, the La Liga title race, not that there is one, has to put on pause. I'm happy because I get to watch Mexico. I get to watch Japan. I get to watch Ecuador now. I get to watch just international football. And that's what I love about the sport the most. I don't think it originated from the World Cup game, but maybe deep down psychologically it did have an impact. The fact that the first game I watched was not Man U, Liverpool, it was Spain, Netherlands. And I was like, that's cool.
Yeah, no, 100%, bro. And I think the first games you ever watch are very, very impactful, right? It sets the precedent for how you consume the game moving forward. And I would 100% agree you're in the minority. I think so many people, you hear it, right? They kind of just groan or complain on Twitter when the clubs have to go to international break and they can't understand that this is something that even a lot of players, whether they admit it or not, they look forward to, right? You hear about certain players getting upset that they don't get the call-ups. You hear sometimes fans getting upset that their favorite player on a top team is not getting called to their national team for whatever reason. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of luster that comes along with playing for the national team. So with that said, I mean, I don't know, were there international teams you were flocking to immediately? Did you resonate more with U.S. versus any other country because you live here? Like, how do you piece that together in your mind? Very
good question. So I don't think I've ever actually answered this, but the reason that I'm a Mexico fan and not a United States fan is very simple, in my opinion. Football means so much more to the country of Mexico than it does to the U.S. And so, I have a Mexican background on my mom's side. I just saw how Mexican fans reacted to the national team. Like, I'll never forget watching Mexico at the World Cup and being like, yo, this is different. That was absolutely cemented at the 2014 World Cup when the GOAT, Memo Ochoa, put on the greatest goalkeeping display of all time against Brazil to keep it 0-0. But when I was deciding my team, my main international team between the U.S. and Mexico, I couldn't pick the U.S. In fact, I didn't really need to think about it because I just asked myself, okay, if the United States won the World Cup, and let's be honest, Jose, we would talk about it for about 3 days, maybe 2 days in this country. Argentina, it's been 3 months. It's almost been 4 months since they won the World Cup. They are still talking about it every single day. Check any Argentine publication. Every day there is at least one story about somebody talking about their memory of Argentina winning the World Cup. And it would be crazy, very similar. It would be the exact same for Mexico if they won the World Cup. Like, it just means so much more.
It's like that now for the U20 CONCACAF champions when Mexico won it. I mean, I can still hear the bandas like celebrating right now as we're literally just having this conversation. I mean, I totally agree with you. So why do you think the U.S. would only celebrate for a handful of days? Well, first, if it won a World Cup, it'd be pretty massive.
I don't think it would, but I got to correct. It was the U17 that we just won. We actually bottled the U20 against Guatemala. Never forget. Because it's not that big of a sport in this country. It's not.
It can't get there.
Look, I think it can get there, and if we want to switch topics into where do we see the sport going, I think it can, but it's still behind NFL. It's behind the NBA. It's probably above hockey, and I feel like it's battling MLB for that third place spot.
Oh, that's so tough for me to hear.
Like, does Mexico even have a professional basketball association? I don't even know. Does anybody give a shit about that sport over in Mexico? Where are the other domestic leagues competing in Mexico? And Argentina, for that matter. I'll throw that country in, competing for the attention of footballing fans. There isn't one. And is that ever going to change?
You could argue baseball, but like
you could argue
only
baseball
at certain times of the year.
Yeah, you could argue baseball. But I don't think a country can't be obsessed with like 5 sports. You know what I mean? I really think 2 is the max. It will always be American football. And honestly, in my opinion, it's always going to be basketball.
Yeah.
Number 2. I think baseball's kind of dying a little bit. I think that soccer will overtake baseball and really cement that third spot in the next, 10, 15 years. But it will never replace basketball. And it will never replace the NFL. It's just too powerful. I guess an example of this is, Australia, their main sport is not football, despite football being like the world's game because they're obsessed with other stuff.
Yeah.
Like, India with cricket. I'm sure every Indian person I met, they like football, but they love cricket.
Yeah.
And it will never overcome cricket as the number one priority in their country. But Indians don't also have the best basketball league. They also don't have the Indian Football League. They don't also have the best baseball league domestically. They don't have all these other competing leagues for attention, for someone's limited attention, I might add. I mean, you and we just had a discussion off screen about it's exhausting having to keep up with all these leagues and all these games. You literally have to live on the couch every weekend. Now do that and also be competing with the NFL, college football, MLB, NHL, NBA. It's impossible. March Madness, which is about to end in Houston, I believe. It's crazy. So I don't think it'll ever reach the mania that is required for a World Cup to dominate the national dialogue for, let's say, a month straight.
Yeah, and not to mention the fact that, like, in order for the sport to take off in a big way, the domestic league that you have has to be, top tier. It just has to be, right? The league itself has to be competing with the other franchise sports and leagues that are in your country. And I mean, not only is professional football abroad not competing to an extent, right, with the other professional franchise leagues, but then you kind of have to like really dwindle it down for MLS because MLS needs all the help it can get right now, and it's nowhere near the NBA, NFL. I mean, you almost wonder like if college football was in season right now, or if MLS started when college football was in season, would it get even half the viewership that it gets? I don't know, right? It's one of my biggest gripes of the league and our culture here in general. But look, I don't want to go too far
Jose,
down that rabbit hole.
That's probably a very good point that you bring up, and that there's probably a reason that they don't play during college football season, outside of the snow and everything being a nightmare for the northern teams. I bet the people who control MLS and the scheduling, they know they're second fiddle, if not third fiddle. They can't compete with that stuff, so move the calendar.
Yeah, you have to. People ask all the time, like, oh, why don't they start at the same times that the leagues do abroad? Because it's strategic. Because there's no way in hell that they're getting the same viewership, which then dwindles down the dollars they have available to spend on media and press and everything else. So it's like, and marketing and distribution of the league. So all of that, it becomes this snowball that works heavily against the MLS. They need to keep the scheduling the way they have it now. Otherwise, I mean, it's the what was it called before, the North American Soccer League before? I don't know what it.
Who knows?
What the acronym was prior to MLS. Yeah, I mean that league died in '94 because they were trying to do things the way that leagues are done abroad. And America's not where other countries are. You can't do it that way if you want it to succeed long term. So I understand it. Not a lot of fans get it, but I think you really have to peel back the layers of how they built this business and why they've done it that way. But look, we'll go further down that rabbit hole. I do want some more takes from you on where you see the growth of the sport going in this country.
Sure.
But going back to your journey as a fan, let's talk a little bit about, you mentioned you were playing YMCA soccer. You loved international football. You met Connor and Jake playing this game a little bit. I mean, from my perspective, you're a very knowledgeable fan. You know a lot about the game, both club and international. Where does club fit into this? Like you mentioned, picking Mexico because of the passion that they have. Did that kind of formulate your ideology and your logic for the club teams that you support?
Well, I'll say thank you for saying that I'm knowledgeable. There's certainly some people that disagree with that. I would say I'm pretty knowledgeable of anything that happened post 2014. Like my history of football, especially club football, is very limited. That's actually something that I try to improve on because I want to have a better experience on the Deadball TV podcast. And I feel like being able to draw on historical comparisons will help with certain conversations. But I'm not like don't ask me what happened in Italy in the 1980s. I couldn't tell you. I don't know. And I'll be straight up about that. I could tell you everything about the history of the NBA because that's the sport that I grew up on. I could tell you about the NFL because that's what my dad liked. That's what my mom liked. That's what my little brother liked. But soccer was never a priority. In fact, I'm still the only person that watches. I think I'm breaking down my brother slowly. And my dad has started to find an appreciation for like international play. He won't watch the Prem, but he'll watch. He's like, oh, wow, Japan, Spain, and he'll sit down with his coffee and he'll give it a solid 20 minutes. Which I'm like,
that's bad, dude. This is America. That's better than most.
Oh my God, yeah, I'm very proud of him. He's very open-minded about the sport, and a lot of Americans aren't because they just think everybody flops, and I don't know what the big.
To watch
It's just, you can tie. It can be 0-0. Who wants to see that?
That shit hurts me.
Know. Yeah, it hurts me too. Sorry, I don't even recall what your initial question was.
But I'm trying to getting to a point where you scale your love from international football to club. Like, how did that happen? Right? Like how?
Right.
I know you support a few clubs both abroad and I won't say domestically because you're not a big MLS guy. We've
not at all.
That. So you support some interesting clubs abroad. How did that all kind of come together and take place?
I think, it came apart because international games don't happen very often. So if I was just an international fan, I'm going to be really bored for a large portion of the year as I'm basically waiting for the next international break 2 months away. So I was kind of forced into it. And dude, honestly, I think I'm just kind of a hipster when it comes to sports. Like, I don't know how else to explain it. I'm terrified of like groupthink. Like herd mentality scares me. Whenever something gets too popular and it reaches critical mass, I take a step back. And I'm like, wait a minute. Why is everybody wearing these shoes all of a sudden? Why is everybody, why did everybody go for the pastel hoodies all of a sudden? I don't like this. What's going on? Let me analyze this and see if I agree. And most of the time, I don't. And I think I have the same approach to fandom. Like, the reason that I like Tottenham is actually an extremely small reason to start. My godfather is Russian, actually fought in the Red Army. I'm trying to get him on Deadball TV to talk about the Russian national team. So check out the channel if you want to see that. I'm still working
Seriously.
on it. He don't like to talk about it too much, but I'll see if I can get him eventually. But there was a guy called Roman Pavlyuchenko who played for Spurs, Russian guy. And that was quite literally the reason that I started watching Tottenham. And he had really cool, really cool hairstyle too. And I was
Pavlyuchenko was like, dude, what year was that? That was like
2012, maybe.
Yeah, this was. I was gonna say about a decade ago.
2011.
Spurs a long time ago.
Yeah, he played 4 seasons. I want to say his last one was 2012, and I kind of started paying attention in 2011, right after the World Cup.
Okay.
So it had to have been early 2010s. And so
that one player was your inspiration for the Spurs passion that you have.
It was to check them out. It was to give them a proper look. You know what I mean? And then I think I liked them because, well, there's 2 reasons. One, I liked them because there weren't a lot of Spurs fans. And I think there's something special about choosing a niche team, because when you run into somebody, when I encounter somebody in the wild wearing a Tottenham jersey, and honestly, this is getting, it's kind of losing the magic as Tottenham become more and more popular. Now I actually see a lot of Spurs fans. But back in the day, if I was at the grocery store and I saw a guy with a Tottenham beanie on, like, I was dapping him up, we were having a 10-minute conversation, and it was just like a very rare event. And I like that because you kind of form like a very closed community. You know what I mean? Like, football is very tribal, but I don't want to just join the biggest tribe because it's the biggest tribe. You know, I don't want to root for Man U just because they have the most American fans. And I always found American football fans to be very fair weather. You know, like, why do you like Man U?
Very fair weather.
Because they're good. I'm like, bro, that ain't a reason. That ain't a reason to just like pick a team. Like, do you like the logo? Do you have any type of emotional connection to the manager, you know, to the players? Did you visit and it was like the first game you ever saw as a kid? No, it's just like, oh, well, they're really good. And I just don't like that mentality because I don't think sports is all about winning. I think that's a big,
it's definitely not.
Big part of it.
I'll say that right now. It's if anybody who, there's plenty of those fair weather fans here in America. It is 100% not about winning. Andre and I on the show, and people know he's one of the mainstay hosts on the show. We argue about this all the time because he constantly throws the argument out there about trophies, right? Real Madrid are levels above any other club because of the trophies they won. And while that may be true in your mind, and I guess maybe on paper, there's so much more that goes into the passion you have for the club, which I consider to be a brand, a community, a group, a tribe.
For sure.
There's so much that goes into it. There's no way you're only united by the fact that you have multiple trophies.
For sure. For sure. Counting trophies, it's the same like cancerous debate that happens in the NBA all the time. Where it's like, X player is better than this guy because he has more rings. I'm like, well, X player averaged 8 points a game in the playoffs. You're going to tell me that he's better than Giannis because Giannis only has 1 ring? It's an idiotic argument. And I don't like that at all when it comes to football, you know, and not just because I'm a Spurs fan. Like, Harry Kane doesn't have any trophies, but I'm a massive Atleti fan too. And we've won quite a few things under Simeone.
Yeah.
You know, but like, I'm not a fan of Atletico Madrid because they won 2 La Ligas. I'm a fan of Atletico Madrid because of the aura around the club, because of the dark arts, the play style, the cult of personality that is Simeone. Like, I'm a massive Simeone fan. It ain't about winning a Europa League. Like, that's cool, but it's the journey of being a fan. You know, what does that look like? So I think when I was picking Tottenham, I looked at other clubs too, and I think I was just really turned off by how like I said, American fans acted who were fans of Arsenal or fans of Chelsea. I couldn't stand them. And I was like, man, I don't want to be in this. It felt like a really popular frat on campus, but like nobody actually was genuine and like really fucked with each other. Sorry, I don't know if I'm allowed to say that, but
no, you definitely are.
You can censor that out in post. And I was like, I don't want to be a part of this. Like, I want to join a team that feels a bit more special to me. And it ended up being Tottenham. I had no idea that we were going to get players like Harry Kane and Son down the road, which has been incredible to watch. But I liked the history of homegrown talent. I liked that. I liked that they didn't just go out and buy the biggest names. I was attracted to that. I was like, okay, this is a development club, as opposed to like just a strict buying club. That was very attractive to me. I didn't really care about the trophies or anything. That was kind of secondary.
Yeah, I like that, bro. I like that a lot, actually. So you mentioned Atletico Madrid in there.
Yeah.
You mentioned the dark arts. I think people would agree with you, especially those who know La Liga or know what Cholo Simeone has built over there. They very much embraced being the bad guy to a lot of people. So what was it? You mentioned about your love about Spurs with Atletico Madrid. Where does that really come from? Because when I think about my passion for football, it isn't so much, and I support very big clubs. It wasn't so much about the brand of the club itself. It was the brand of football that I was watching, right? Like my passion for Barcelona. For those who tune into the show, they know this already. I had no choice. My family generationally are Barcelona fans, and they can look at it at this team. When people say Barcelona is the biggest club in the world, they're dead wrong. Mainly because we don't have the longevity, right? Like we're a very recently good club, as early as the early '90s, and that's it. If you looked at Barcelona before that, very, very mediocre club, very mediocre finishes. We were kind of the anti-Real Madrid club. That's what everybody saw us as like the rebels to the empire that was Real Madrid. But that's really it. There wasn't anything much to hang your hat on. But my love for Arsenal came from, I think, something similar. Arsene Wenger came into the league. Nobody liked him at all because he believed in non-English players coming into the league and like changing the way that they played the game out there. We were kind of the noisy neighbors, right? I feel like that's something similar with Atletico Madrid, but their brand of football is so different, very physical, very pragmatic. I don't know, man. What's it like being Atletico Madrid fan, especially here in the States, where I would say when it comes to La Liga clubs, there's only two in the States, right? Atletico Madrid doesn't really have a fan base here. So is it kind of the same thinking as Spurs, or is it a little bit deeper?
Yeah, to expand on that, I think I've seen two other Atletico Madrid fans in my life in Houston. It's very rare. Why I was attracted to the club, though, very simple. I like defensive football. Like, I am the complete opposite of where a lot of fans are. They want to see like a 4-3. Screw that. I don't want to see a 4-3. I want to see a 1-0 win away at the Bernabeu. That's what I want to see. I want to see lockdown football. I don't want to see my team conceding any shots. I want a goalkeeper who's a stud, and I want 4 yellow cards. That's the brand of football that I like. I don't need the flashy, like, look, when Griezmann goes off and scores a hat trick, it's great. Atletico Madrid have had some extremely talented attackers over the years, but it's the defensive spine that's always been attractive to me. Godin, one of the GOATs, bro.
Yeah.
Him and Jose Jimenez, Felipe Luis. There's so many good defenders who have been at Atletico Madrid. And again, I'm a hipster, dude. Defenders get no love. They can't win the Ballon d'Or. They can't win any award. Nobody gives a damn about them. And I think that's BS. So I'll care. The general populace doesn't want to care. I'll care about you. I'll look at a defensive team and appreciate that because that stuff is hard. It's hard to keep a clean sheet. So I've always liked that. And I think just Simeone is like, he's just a magnifier, because he basically is the club now at this point.
Yeah.
And also just the fact that their nickname is the Colchoneros, the mattress makers, is the hardest nickname in world football. Like, find me another one. They're the goddamn mattress makers, dude. And they're going to put your ass on the ground with a dirty slide tackle. I love it. I love everything about it.
Yeah. No, I mean, bro, you're not lying. They are the hardest team in La Liga to play against for that reason. It's so difficult. Like, you just know it's going to be a physical battle every single time. They're going to make it about them, not about the game that we're here to play. So I don't know, man. It's sometimes I get so tilted watching Atletico Madrid play. I get so upset. I'm just like, bro, I can't believe this team has fans. But like at the end of the day, there's a lot of value to what you just said. I think being a defender myself, growing up playing as a defender, it's so difficult. And you're right, defenders get no love. I watched a TikTok this morning. This is kind of off script a little bit. I watched a TikTok this morning where somebody had the balls to say that Maldini is not a top 3 or 5 defender. That's not in their list for a top defender all time. I think that's one of the worst takes I've ever heard.
Yeah,
I'm really curious. Yeah, TikTok is that place, right? Breeding ground for bad takes.
I want to hear what his argument was because
he thinks that fans are just in it we rate him because of longevity, not because of quality, and that he had a lot of great talent around him, right? Baresi, Nesta, but dude, I mean, that talent cycled in and out. Maldini was world class at 2 different positions.
Yes.
I don't know, man. I think Maldini to me is the greatest defender of all time. I would put Ramos right behind him. But now that I'm saying this, I'm really curious. You prioritize defenders. I'm a defender myself. I've had this conversation before, but I'm really curious. Do you have like a top 3 or top 5 defenders list just off rip that you kind of think about?
So for me, it's Ramos 1, Maldini 2. But I have no issue at all with anyone having Maldini number 1. I completely understand. Just for me, I'm a Atleti fan, dude. But I love Sergio Ramos. Which is crazy. Like, that's how good this man is. He overcame the hate in my heart for Real Madrid, and I was like, nah, like this guy's built different. Yeah. This guy's built different. 100 goals as a defender, like 25 assists. The most ridiculous highlight reel you will ever find of a defender in world football. I swear to God, find me a defender who has better highlights than Sergio Ramos. Does not exist.
Yeah,
but Maldini's probably a better pure defender. Certainly. Much less.
There are a lot of similarities. There are a lot of similarities between those two guys.
Yeah. I think Maldini was just a little bit better at all the defensive aspects of the game, but he does not have even close to the offensive output that Sergio Ramos has, and we're getting intangible with like the clutch factor and stuff. Number 3 all time. I've never really thought of my top 5 defenders all time. Again, I'm not a soccer historian, so like anything pre-2010, I'm shaky on. So I'm hesitant to say a name, and then somebody's gonna be like, "What about this guy from like the 1970s?" And I'm gonna be like, "With all due respect, I don't know who that is, and I've never seen this man play." So, I'm not just gonna put a guy on my list just because he's like popular. Again, I don't give into the mob mentality. I think that's why I have hot takes, because let me think about this as an individual for a second. I disagree with what you guys are saying. So I don't really know if I have a top 5. I will come up with one and share it with you.
Yeah,
but yeah.
Absolutely,
Ramos is my 1, Maldini's 2 for me.
Would you rate someone like, and this is my bias showing a little bit, but would you rate someone like, and maybe it's more of his leadership that I admire, but someone like Puyol?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Puyol's a dog. For sure. I mean, Chiellini, guy's got to be up there. John Terry was a stud.
Rio
Vidic,
Ferdinand was amazing.
Yeah, Rio Ferdinand was amazing.
There's so many, bro. And we could probably be here for like an hour trying to pick apart all these center backs and put them into a top 5. But at the end of the day, it's just like
Rafa Marquez.
Rafa Marquez. Dude, Rafa was, and Andre, he's a massive Real Madrid fan, but he'll tell you all day, like he would take Rafa at Real Madrid in a heartbeat. Like
he would easily be their best center back right now.
Yeah, and it's crazy, right? And like, dude, there are very few players from Mexico who actually like get that chance to go abroad to a very big club, one of the biggest clubs in the world, and cement their place. And the fact that it was the turf monster that came up and got him, right? And it was so weird how he tore his ACL. He literally was just like walking around the pitch and like just completely moved to the side, and that was it. Piqué came in, and that's how he got his place in that crazy Pep's Barca, but. It's just insane that Rafa held it for so long in a team that was that good, right? Ronaldinho's Barca. Like, that's crazy to me because not many Mexican players do that.
Now, you could argue, too, Hugo Sanchez and Rafa.
Yeah, 100%.
Or Real and
Chichat, too, to an extent. I mean, he scored 20 goals in a season with Manchester United. I mean, I don't know, bro. There are a few players that have done some really crazy things for Mexican descent over the years, but yeah, man, it's just wild. So anyway, we went off on a crazy tangent there. I'll bring it back in. Let's talk about you, Connor, and Jake. It feels like Deadball TV right now, bro. You guys are we're just going off on rails here.
This is why we don't script anything, because we fail.
Yeah, bro. But look, let's get back to the story here. So you, Connor, Jake, for instance, you guys were kids. I mean, bro, and you guys didn't take footy that seriously coming up. Like, at what point did you guys decide that, hey, you know what? We're kind of just these casual American fans. Let's start a podcast. Let's start talking about this stuff and building a community around the game. Like, I'm sure, I want to say it was you that had the idea. I feel like it would be you of the three. But, like, where I don't know, where did the idea come from? And why Connor and Jake? Like, why? Is it just because you guys were friends? Or do you feel like they really had some good knowledge to share?
Yeah, so the origin of Deadball TV, I mean, you're right. We didn't really have, the three of us didn't really have a strong, like, football desire growing up. Like, the only one of us that really played was Jake. He played at my high school. I met him freshman year, St. Thomas in Houston, and he played soccer as a right back, which is still crazy. He must have, I swear to God, he must have been the tallest right back in taps. Like, that's absolutely crazy. But, yeah, I was a wrestler in high school and in college, so I didn't play soccer at all. I literally played YMCA for 6 years, and then that was it. And then I picked up the sport again at Ohio State intramural because my friends needed a goalkeeper, and like I was like, oh, I'm a wrestler, like I'm agile, I'm like a monkey, I can dive around. So I was like, I'll play goalkeeper, you know, even though I'm 5'8", and that's how like I got back into the sport. But I was just playing goalkeeper, you know what I mean? And then Connor, I think he played with me at the YMCA, and then I think he might have tried out or played one season at his high school. I'm not really sure what happened there, but he's like a theater guy. He's an actor, a very talented actor. So that like kind of became his extracurricular activity.
Yeah.
In terms of forming Deadball TV, I had a YouTube channel before Deadball TV that was actually talking about hip hop. Like that's what the whole thing was about. And Jake got on there a few times with me because Jake and I were like huge hip hop heads. I don't think people know this, but like we are so deep in the underground hip hop game and international hip hop game, like y'all wouldn't believe it. I could give you a rap song, a rapper from any country, so for whatever the situation is. Date, gym sesh, pregame warm up, party, whatever you need, I got you. All right. And Jake is very similar like that. Like I don't even know how many songs we have on our playlist, but so he would come on and be like my co-host. And eventually I just stopped doing that YouTube channel. I just kind of asked myself, like, do I really want to talk about this forever? You know, do I want to talk and try to highlight like other artists forever, especially in hip hop? I didn't really like where the sound of hip hop was going. It got boring. And so I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. Like I just lost the drive. And Connor and Jake and I, we had a group chat. We'd always talk ball. And after months, maybe even a year of like trying to plant the seed of the idea, they were finally like, okay, let's do it. So I went out, I like bought an extra mic and whatever other equipment I needed. We set up in my office at my apartment and we just shot the first episode. And after we did, I think it was about CONMEBOL. It was about CONMEBOL World Cup qualifying, which is very fitting because that's like one of our biggest topics. And afterwards, we stopped recording, and Connor and I were like, "Yo, that was really fun." Got like 40 views or something. I didn't give a shit. I was like, "That was so fun." Like we need to record our conversations like this more often, and that's kind of where it got started.
Bro, and now look at you guys, man. You guys are literally like I think I don't know how many subscribers you guys have now, maybe 3K or so.
I think 2,600.
2,600, yeah. You guys are growing. You guys are growing like rapid fire at this point. I feel like because Deadball as a brand hasn't even been around that long. And then you think about, I've seen some of your live streams now, which I think are pretty new, right? Like you guys just started doing live streams for some big matches, both internationally and club. What's when you think about adding those in? What's that process been like?
So I think the process, it was really just like, all right, guys, I need y'all to sit down for 3 hours and watch this game with me. That was really the process. I think the struggle of getting it started is the anxiety of being live. The anxiety of being like if I say something, right, like quality control in the podcast, sometimes if we say something so egregiously false, like we just really bottled a stat or something, sometimes I will edit it out. That's pretty rare, but it does happen. And so I think there's like the anxiety of saying something wrong and saying something stupid that's being live streamed that you can't edit, and then everyone's going to roast you for it. Like I said, I was a YouTuber before Deadball TV, so I'm numb to it. I'm so calloused at this point. Like I love hate comments, so it doesn't bother me. But I don't think Jake and Connor are quite as seasoned as I am. So I think that was just like a hurdle to get over there. Like, all right, guys, We got to do this. We're going to do it live. Who cares if we say something wrong or whatever? We just got to do it because I feel like it's another really good way to engage with the community. You know, like people can ask me questions in real time and I can answer them in video form. I can talk to them, you know? So that was kind of the whole, the initial hurdle and then the argument for starting live streams.
Yeah. And now, bro, I mean, I don't know how many viewers you guys have on your last one. It was a good amount.
Like 3,000.
Yeah, dude. I mean, I'm telling you, dude, like the live streams themselves, I think I watched you with your, maybe it was El Clasico. I think this probably was the last one that I saw.
Yeah,
I don't know if you've done one since then.
We just did a Mexico, Jamaica one. That was the one that did 3,000.
Oh man, that must have been fun for you.
It was so fun. It was really fun. I mean, it was a good game, dude. I'm gonna be honest. Mexican fans, dude, they're too reactionary. Everyone's saying Coca out and all this stuff. Crazy, bro. We scored an own goal, and Bobby Reed had arguably the best goal I've seen in a year. So I'm not panicking at all.
No,
but yes.
I mean, I think it's because they just hear Jamaica and they expect, you know, like every other CONCACAF fan, at least that's stateside or North America. I mean, you think about the other countries that you should be beating, right? Jamaica's technically one of those, and when U.S. kind of the same thing. We only beat El Salvador 1-0, and a lot of the fans are coming out of the woodwork saying Anthony Hudson doesn't know what he's doing. We got to figure out another coach, this and that. We're not calling up the right players, and it's like, guys, just chill. All right, this is Nations League. I mean, there's a lot of football left to be played before the next World Cup. We don't have to go through qualifying like that. Like, we're trying to figure out what the team's going to look like. Like, let's calm it down a little bit. So, you know, and I know we're getting close to wrapping up here. But yeah, bro, the live streams for Deadball have been wild. I mean, when you think about what's next for Deadball TV, and you're growing this community at a pretty good rate right now, what are you going to layer on next? I mean, are you thinking about, I don't know, actually new to the show, a new component, maybe a new person? Like what's the process looking like for you guys next?
Yeah. So one thing we want to do in the near term is get a Discord going. Just like another avenue for our community to interact with each other. That's something that we've wanted to do for a while. And honestly, the reason we haven't done it is because I don't know anything about Discord. Like, I'm so out of touch with that application. I don't know, like, how to turn my mic on. You know, I'm like, so that's something Connor and Jake are handling. I'm like, I even told them, like, guys, don't ask me about the Discord. I don't need to approve anything. Y'all just do it. I don't know how it works. Y'all got it. In terms of adding new people, I don't know if we'll add like a new co-host or something, but I definitely want to keep the collabs going. Like, the last collab we did was with my friend Chu Okoli, who's from Nigeria, and it was like our first African football collab on the channel. And I honestly thought it was an amazing conversation. Like, I just got to ask him a question, and I'd sit back and not say anything for 5 minutes as he would explain like the intricacies of Nigerian football, and it was. And a lot more people enjoyed it than I was expecting. You know, I kind of thought that it would be a flop, not because people don't care about Nigerian football or African football, but because one, it's a new content piece on the channel, and two, there's not really like a massive market on YouTube for international football in Africa.
There really isn't.
No, there's not, and that's one of the objectives of this channel. Is like, no, guys, you should pay attention to Asia. You should pay attention to South America. You should pay attention to Africa. Like, Europe isn't the be all end all. I mean, they didn't win the last World Cup. So obviously there's some talent in other parts of the world that y'all should start paying attention to. But anyways, yeah, we want to continue getting more collabs like that. Like guys from different countries too. I don't want to just keep having like Mexican fans on. Like that'd be cool because I can debate them about Mexico. Maybe if they're like a pessimist and I'm an optimist. But I want to get, you know, somebody from like Peru on. I want to get somebody from Uruguay, somebody from Ghana, somebody from Japan. Like those are the conversations that we want in the future.
Yeah, and I've seen even like during the World Cup, right? You guys had Albert to talk about you know, Korea's hopes in and you know, dreams in the World Cup and you know, predictions along those lines. Yeah, those collaborations, man, I think they open up perspectives in ways that people themselves didn't even know they needed or wanted, right? Because you only know what YouTube feeds you on this side of the world. A lot of fans probably don't know it, right? But you and I talked about this. If you want to go search for Asian football or African football or whatever the case may be, here in North America, you just can't find it. Like, doesn't exist. It's not going to feed you anything. You almost need groups like Deadball TV to kind of bring some fresh perspective to the content that you're consuming and let you know that there's a whole world out there that exists beyond the Premier League or La Liga or the U.S. men's national team or El Tri. Like, there's a lot out there to be had. And that's why, going back to that point you made a little while ago on the show, football's not all about trophies. Well, only one team wins a trophy per major league in any given league, any given country. It's about the community that these clubs are building, the brands that they're building, and why we're so tribal in that way. So I love it, bro. And look, we're kind of out of time for today. I hope we get a chance to do this again soon. I'm really curious to see how Jake and Connor feel about the earliest days of, of course, you guys being all friends, but starting Deadball TV. From their perspective, I feel like you had more of the vision, and they just really kind of wanted to be not along for the ride, right? But contribute in any way they possibly could to bring value. I'm really curious in how those interviews will go and how their perspectives kind of shape everything you guys are building, man. But before we head out, is there anything you want to give a shout to? Anybody you want to give a shout to? Just want to give you that floor really quickly.
I mean, I'll give a shout out to my co-hosts, Connor and Jake, who you're going to have on for some individual interviews. I mean, maybe people see me as like the face or whatever at Deadball TV, but I couldn't do anything with on the channel without the two of them. The different personalities that they bring, the different perspective. I think that's what makes Deadball TV interesting to people. Like, we have some truly hilarious moments on there, including on our last episode where I guess Jake's go-to I don't know if you saw this. Jake's like go-to DM slide is I'm trying to do you down bad or something that's like so horrible and cringe, but I guess that's what worked for him at UT Austin. Just like moments like that where, again, totally unscripted. And I don't know if you can have those moments if you're not friends with somebody. Like, if it's a colleague, do you really have that level of comfortability to talk like that? So, I got to give a shout out to those guys because I think they've played a massive part in Deadball TV, having an appeal to like multiple people from dozens of countries, man. Like, we have so many viewers from South America and Asia and even Europe, kind of like stacking up. And I think it's because of the different ingredients that we bring on the channel. Shout out to everybody else who's collaborated. You mentioned Albert. It's a power of YouTube, dude. Like, Albert's a great friend of mine now. Like, he's not just an acquaintance. That is my friend. That is somebody that if I'm going through a hard time, I will text him. Martin from Ecuador Heroes, shout out to him. Like, I'm going to go visit him in Quito in Ecuador now. Like, these are genuine connections that have been built through YouTube. And I want to keep building more of those. And not just for myself and Connor and you and Jake. Like, I want subscribers and fans and everybody else to like make friends as well. I can't wait for the first subscriber pickup game. I don't know when I'm going to be able to host that or what city we're going to do it in, but like, that's the dream, dude. So yeah, I mean, I shout out everybody who's made Deadball TV what it is so far.
I love that, bro. That's a fantastic way to end this show. Well, look, guys, I'm going to link Deadball TV's channel down below. Give it a subscribe. Go watch some of the live streams, some of the past videos. And Jack wasn't lying. The funny content goes a mile deep. I still remember episodes months ago where like they couldn't even stop laughing together. It was hilarious. So I mean, it just and very infectious too, the laughter. I was laughing along and I had no idea why. So anyway, I'll link their channel down below. Go check them out. They got a ton of content there for you to consume from varying lenses of soccer or football. If you are a footy fan, plenty of you for you there on that channel. Jack, thank you so much for hopping on the show today, brother. I really appreciate it. I hope we get to do this again soon. Hopefully with Jake, Connor, all three of you guys on board. I would love for Box to Box to have some of that same camaraderie you guys share on Deadball TV. For anybody who stuck around to the end of the show today, I really appreciate you. Thank you so much. Again, if you haven't done so already, like the video, subscribe to the channel. And for anybody who supports GOLZtv and our mission of growing a true culture around the beautiful game here in the States, we sincerely appreciate you. Check out GOLZ.tv. And from all of us here at Box to Box, we'll see you guys next time.